situation has, to that extent, changed. We're a long way from getting a satisfactory solution in Cambodia, but it has changed to that extent, and therefore we've adapted our policy to that extent.
The element that has created some of the greatest anger amongst critics of our policy has been that of accepting the right of a Khmer Rouge representative to go on sitting at the United Nations. What change have we made in our attitude to the UN that might terminate that situation?
Well, that's been settled for this session, and there wasn't actually a vote on it. And what the UN is going on to next week is the question of the substance, what the UN General Assembly, the world community, is actually saying about Vietnam. And there we're changing the wording of the resolution which we and 73 other countries are co-sponsoring. The question of the seat and the credentials will certainly need to be looked at, but it's been settled for the moment.
Douglas Hurd has, of course, said that we have nothing to do with the Khmer Rouge. We don't recognise the Khmer Rouge. There's no question of British support for the Khmer Rouge. And of course this is just not true. Because insofar as we support the other factions in the coalition, the other factions are assisting the Khmer Rouge in the fight. And therefore any support for the other factions, which is passed on by them to the fighting forces, is support for the Khmer Rouge. That's the first bit of logic.
We asked Mr. Hurd to appear on this programme, but he refused. We also asked Britain's ambassador to the UN, Sir Crispin Tickell, to be interviewed in New York, but he refused. Instead, Sir Crispin issued an extraordinary statement, saying that Britain's vote for the Khmer Rouge-dominated coalition did not mean support for the Khmer Rouge. Then what does it mean? What does Mrs. Thatcher mean when she says there are reasonable Khmer Rouge who should be in power? And why did Britain co-sponsor a UN resolution which calls on Vietnam to withdraw its forces from Cambodia when in fact the Vietnamese went home in September? The same resolution calls for a comprehensive settlement in Cambodia, but this is respectable language for a government dominated by Pol Pot's Khmer Rouge. British policy is a carbon copy of American policy, but no member of the US administration would even state Washington's position to us. Never in my experience as a journalist has there been such a silence. Never has a policy been so indefensible.
The next speaker is the Prime Minister of Democratic Kampuchea, His Excellency Mr. Son Sann, who has expressed the wish to make a statement on the item under consideration. I request the Chief of Protocol to escort His Excellency to the rostrum.
This was the UN General Assembly last Wednesday, debating the resolution that would decide the future of 8 million people. Instead, a farce unfolded, in which diplomat after